Alex, good to see you. Thank you for taking time to have a chat. For those of you who don't know Alex Dziedzan is a program manager on the strategic response side of things for Meta. So look, we're going to go into three questions, really simple. The first one is that question that I think we all dread being asked at parties. So wait, what do you actually do again?
So the way the strategic response team works is we sit in between a whole range of teams. So we work with policy, legal, comms, product, the engineering side of the business, and we're brought in when there are very difficult problems that need to be solved. So it could be something large like ensuring that our safety standards are up to date and that we're at the kind of the cutting edge of being able to protect people online. But it also could be immediate breaking issues.
So a team at the centre of everything that the corporate affairs function does, basically.
Yeah, and hopefully the goal of the team is to resolve those most challenging issues facing the company and to be able to escalate to leadership a view from across the company. So you need to make sure that legal's views are taken into account, comms' views are taken into account, and be able to tell leadership, like, this is the problem, this is exactly what's happening, this is precisely how we propose to deal with it. And one of the skills I think that all businesses have to grapple with are making decisions based on the best available information to them, but making those decisions quickly and being able to kind of push forward with a response that addresses whatever the challenge might be.
You haven't taken a linear route to a Meta, right? You haven't necessarily got the names you'd expect on the CV, the Googles or whoever else it is in the lead to that. So I'm really interested to get your view on, if you had one piece of advice you could give a more junior person, what would it be?
I think my CV is varied. One theme that runs throughout the whole of it is I've always worked on issues and for companies and organizations where policy and communications matters, and it's central to the business's success. And I think, I'm often pigeonholed by policy people as being a comms person or by comms people as being a policy person. Fundamentally, we are all grappling with the same challenging issues. The skill is making sure that you're able to translate those for the right audiences and you'll help come up with appropriate responses. I think that the advice, though, for anyone based on that is go to the things that you find interesting. I always say I am not a peacetime comms operator, but if there is a crisis in a company, that's the sort of thing I love working on. And when it's wartime, it's so much more interesting to me. And so, whether I worked in Lloyd's of London, it was a highly regulated market that was facing potential consequences as a result of Brexit, but also the increased globalization and competition that it had. So, comms mattered fundamentally to how the organization pitched itself. It's the same in so many of my kind of political roles in the early start of my career. You want to work on issues that are interesting and challenging because also you learn the best by having to grapple with a range of problems. So for anyone starting out, I just would say you can make choices in your 20s, you can take more risks and you can move around. Take on those challenges that you think are going to be interesting because that's where you'll learn the most. And then you will find 20 years later into your career, you'll look back on those experiences and they will be valuable to you in the way you're able to make decisions now.
Really good point about moving around. You get some people will just move every year or every 2 years and it's sometimes just blind ambition and it's not actually moving you in the right direction. But if you move with some intent because you're seeking out experiences that are going to help drive you forward, I think that makes complete sense in the early stage of your career.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. For me, I always saw moving between companies as a way to get progress on your CV in terms of the job title. But the reality is, I think fundamentally, actually, the better outcome for me was that I made lucky and good choices as to the different roles that I took. And I think that's the bit that really is the lesson there, not going necessarily for the job title, but to the challenging roles where you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah.
When I left politics after a kind of decade of working in Westminster, I went into the financial services sector. When I left the financial services sector, I went into kind of the sports sector. And from there, I've gone into tech at Meta. And those jumps have been huge in terms of the requirements on you to learn quickly.
Yeah.
But that's where you make the biggest jumps in terms of your professional development.
So one final question then. If you weren't in the world of corporate affairs, what would you be doing? What would you like to be doing?
I would have loved to have been an actor, I think. I'd have zero talent. I can do zero accents. I'm entirely unconvincing. But I would have loved to have been an actor. I think it looks so much fun. Maybe in another life I get to do that. But to be fair, comms and corporate affairs isn't too far away from that. You have to be confident to be able to sell what you're pitching. I vividly remember, and some of my happiest memories of working in communications are sitting outside on the mobile phone arguing with someone at the Financial Times and persuading them that what they were about to write was wrong.
Yeah.
And I genuinely believe what they were about to write was wrong, but it was fun, right? It's the combative nature of comms that I think is exciting, and I think there's an element of acting, of being able to kind of present yourself in that's fun.
Brilliant. I think there'll be a few comms folk out there who feel they would like to have been an actor as well, to be fair.
I'll be honest, I don't think I would have been a good actor, but I would have loved it.
Brilliant. Well, Alex, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for doing that, and
thank you very much.
Cheers.